morning, everyone. Chair Parker, thank you for your comments. I really appreciate that, and thank you to the board members here today. I really appreciate the opportunity to come here and speak with you and let you know some of the challenges that we've been faced with in the landscape department. I speak to numerous residents on a daily basis, and one of the recurring themes and comments that I hear from them after I've explained our situation, and I really have to say a big thank you to those residents for being very understanding. As we explain our circumstances, they really do understand what we're going through, and one of the things that they suggest to me is that we need to do a better job of communicating. And I completely agree with that, and it's wonderful to have this opportunity to do that so that we can get out in front of the community like this and explain some of the challenges that we've been faced with. I don't want to take up a great deal of your time today, but I do have a number of slides that we can go through and just explain the challenges that we've been faced with, the things that we're doing to tackle those challenges, and where we go going forward. So if we could advance the slide there. I'll start out with some statistics about our acreage, just to kind of give you an overview of the size and magnitude of the job that we have here. We have over 640 acres irrigated. That does not include the golf course. That would be above and beyond that. We have 8 grounds crews of approximately 10 men that manage the care of those 640 acres. We have, according to our latest count with our new Arbor Pro system, we have over 35,000 trees. And when you do the simple math on that, with a 32 to 34 month cycle, we're looking at over 1,000 trees a month that we need to review and, of course, do the service as necessary. Go ahead. Altogether, we have 155 total staff years on our budget. And again, as I mentioned, we have 8 grounds crews that manage the shrub beds and the lawns and just the overall care of the grounds out there. Those crews are approximately 10 staff each. Now, the challenge that we've been faced with this year that we've not been challenged with in the past, at least not to this degree, is our staffing. As John mentioned, it's been very difficult to fill some of the open positions that we have. Going into the growing season this year, at one point we had 11 positions that we needed to fill. 7 of those were budgeted normal openings, and 4 were additional positions that we were going to bring in to deal with renovation work that we were doing in United for a particular project in cul-de-sacs 8 and 40. Going into the growing season, we were not able to fill those positions, so essentially we ended up absorbing that work, which impacted our ability to keep up with normal maintenance. In addition to that, I don't know how many people are familiar, but here in California we have the FMLA, which is Family Medical Leave Act, where employees can take time off to deal with illnesses within the family. We have a number of staff that are taking, utilizing that benefit to them. You put this all together, at one point we were down essentially an entire grounds crew. So instead of having 8 grounds crews, we were really operating with about 7 grounds crews. And as John pointed out, really the main driver of this is the unemployment rate here in Orange County. It's very difficult here in Southern Orange County to fill these positions. Unemployment is low. In addition to that, because these are entry-level positions, you don't have it's very difficult for folks to move into the area and live in the area, so oftentimes they have to come from distances. And if they can find a job in their own neighborhood, then it's much easier, obviously, for them to do that. On top of this, we've had a number of new hires, about a dozen new hires since November. Obviously, new hires have a learning curve that they need to get up, and so they're not as productive and effective and as efficient as a seasoned employee. So that adds to our ability to keep up with the workload. One other item that I want to point out that impacted us particularly this year, it's a new training protocol for work on slopes. It's fall protection training that it became a new requirement this year for us to go through. And it's a great thing to have. It was definitely necessary. Obviously, we want to keep our staff safe in the field out there, but the timing of it was the problem. And so we were ordinarily, we would be working on the slopes in the non-growing season, which is the winter, in spring, and in the fall. We weren't able to do some of the work that we would ordinarily do because we didn't have the training in place. There's also equipment that we needed to purchase and get on hand for them to be able to do the job safely. And so the timing of that threw us off, and we weren't able to do some of the work that we needed to do. We're also working with Orange County Fire Authority, and I'll get into that in some slides here. But we weren't able to do some of the work that they needed us to do in the non-growing season, and it was pushed to the growing season, which then detracted from our ability to maintain, just to do the normal maintenance. Go ahead and advance there. The next major challenge has been the rain, and John alluded to this as well, the weather conditions that we had. And I think we would all certainly agree the rain has been a blessing. We've gone through about 5 years of drought, and having normal rainfall has certainly been a blessing. I can see across the landscape, the health of the landscape is so much better, not only here in the village, but really everywhere. And so it's been a blessing to have that. However, it does come as sort of a double-edged sword, and that is, obviously, when we had the rain and the wind in the non-growing season, our crews were busier and more affected by that. The cleanup work that was necessary as a result of that, which then prevented us from doing some of the corrective pruning, some of the slope work that we would have done in the areas where we could do that without the training, things like that. And so we were not able to do the work in the non-growing season that would have set us up for a better time during the growing season. So that was one part of that. But what the rain has really done here, particularly after 5 years of drought, has really flushed out the soil. There's been an accumulation of salts in the soil. When you don't have the normal rainfall to flush that out, our irrigation water comes with a high degree of salinity to it. And so as a result, you have a buildup of salt that suppresses plant growth. So when you have the rain flush that out, it adds to the health of the plants, and we saw a tremendous response in terms of the growth of the plant material, from weeds to trees and everything in between. It's been a very strong growth response, and that's all across the board, everywhere, all at once. It's very, it added or compounded the problems that we were having being short-staffed. One of the other items, or one of the other things that it caused, was us to begin our weekly mowing sooner than what we would normally do, which again detracts from our ability to do normal shrub bed maintenance because manpower is shifted from that to the mowing operation. When it comes to the trees, we have a number of trees that produce seeds and various fruits and whatnot that create a litter problem. Well, with the rain and all the growth that we've received, those trees put on a heavy crop of seeds. There's a number of trees that we have that are fast growing. Many of the trees that we have are placed very close to buildings. And so you start to get growth that is impacting the structure, rubbing against windows and roof lines and that sort of thing, which has led to a spike in the calls that we've received for off-schedule pruning, and it detracts from our ability to keep up with the normal routine pruning that we need to do, back to that 1,000 trees per month that we need to keep up with. Go ahead and advance there. Here's just a picture of showing you some of the shrub growth that we're dealing with, just as examples here. You can see, particularly on the left, the type of growth that impacts the driveways and walkways and people's ability to get in and out of their manors. The growth that you see on the plants here is about 2 months worth of growth. So if we were firing on all cylinders, everything was working to our favor, as it has been in the past, our normal cycle rate is about every 2 months. So you can see with this kind of growth, even if we were firing on all cylinders, we would have a very difficult time keeping up with the workload. Go ahead. Here's an example of issues that we have with grass. Now, we have, as has most of Orange County, been colonized by kikuyu grass. This is a weed species of grass. It's a warm season grass, which means it prefers the hot, warmer months for rapid growth. It is very aggressive. And when we've had the years of drought that we've had, what that has done is it's tipped the scales in favor of kikuyu. And so we have much more of it in the community here. And you can see how it encroaches into the shrub beds. So now we have to do much more string line trimming. You can see the picture on the right, how aggressive it is. It actually grows on the top of a post here in a park in northern Orange County. Go ahead and advance there. So the slopes, again, the health of the plant material is so much better. The condition of the plants, particularly on the slopes, looks so much better. But again, you can see the growth here. These are slopes that would have been groomed last fall. And again, in the spring, we were not able to do it in the spring. And so you can see the growth now that we have to deal with coming into the fall here to get that back under control. Go ahead. Here's an example of trees. The tree on the left is already impacting the roof line. That is a ficus tree. It's very close to the buildings there. That was pruned about 2 years ago. Our normal cycle rate is approximately 3 years, as I mentioned before. There's no way that tree can go another year without some pruning being done. So we have to pull guys off schedule to deal with that. On the right, you can see the heavy fruiting there of the carrot wood and the mess that it's dropping there. You can see that the seeds are so heavy, they're actually bending the branches down. Again, that's all work that needs to be dealt with off schedule, which impacts our ability to keep up with the workload. Go ahead. Other factors, as I mentioned, we've been working with the Orange County Fire Authority. The western perimeter of the community is within the OCFA's Ember Zone, and so there's certain parameters that they would like to see in terms of vegetation on that side of the community. One of their main concerns is the amount of acacia that is planted on the slopes. Acacia has an oil that is flammable, and so OCFA would prefer that that's cut back or even eliminated. And so again, with the training that we needed to get through in the spring, we weren't able to deal with some of the work that they needed us to do. It was pushed to the summer, the growing season, which then impacted our ability to keep up with the workload. Another item, I'm not sure, I'm pretty sure it has been talked about in past URF meetings, but in case you're not aware, the AQMD has tightened their regulations when it comes to diesel exhaust and emissions, particularly from our tub grinder. And so our tub grinder actually no longer complies, and it was taken out of service. We're in the process of trying to determine how best to go about replacing that with a machine that would be compliant. The net result of that has been that we haven't been able to produce the mulch that we would normally produce, which, of course, if we had been able to do that and then put that out in the spring, would have helped us with our weed control. We've had a number of unplanned jobs that have come up that are largely out of our control, and one example here is Southern California Edison's work within the gates 5 and 6 area. Go ahead and advance the slide there. Here's an example of the slope I was talking about, OCFA, on the western perimeter over by Barbara's Lake. If you're familiar with that side of the community, you can see the acacia there, and that all has to be removed. That impacts not only the grounds crew, but it also impacts the tree crew because we utilize the tree crew to do the grinding. Also, those palms that you see are actually outside the wall, the perimeter wall of the community, but it is on community property. It's one of those areas where the wall is actually set back inside the property line. And so the OCFA wanted those palms removed, and so we had to work with the park on the other side there to get in there and remove those palms, which have been removed, but we had to do that during the summer here, again, impacting our ability to keep up with the workload. Go ahead. Now, these are priority 2 slopes, just again, example of the acacia that we're talking about that we need to thin out or reduce or even eliminate. Now, OCFA has been working with us on these slopes, and they're willing to go ahead and wait until the fall for us to be able to do these. So that actually works in our favor. Go ahead to the next one. Now, the Southern California Edison has been working in gates 5 and 6, working on their utilities. I believe they're replacing some of their power lines out there, and obviously the work that they do is very damaging to the landscape. Now, they're supposed to do the cleanup and repair work, but obviously they don't do the repair work to the full extent that we would like to see. So we're the ones that have to come back in and fix this the way that it should be fixed. And again, that detracts from our ability to keep up with routine maintenance. Go ahead. So where we stand right now, obviously with grounds maintenance, we need to fill our positions. We have 4 positions left currently that we need to fill. Our human resources has been doing a great job trying to recruit staff in here to fill those positions. I believe we have 2 or 3 actually in the works that we hope will be here in the next week or 2. One of the other things, and thanks to Brad for his authorization here to use overtime, particularly on the weekends through August, that helped tremendously for us to get some of this work taken care of. And we've really kind of mixed up how we do the work, emphasizing more off-schedule pruning, trying to go out and deal with the problems that folks have at their manors rather than just focusing on the normal progression of our cycles. We need to get out there and take care of people that have been waiting for months and months for the service to take place. And so that's kind of the direction we've been taking with grounds maintenance. When it comes to tree maintenance, one of the things that we're doing is we've created an off-schedule team where we can take just a few guys and have them go and deal with the off-schedule work, all of the calls that we receive where trees are rubbing up against buildings and that sort of thing, so that the main bulk of the crew will continue to handle those 1,000 trees a month that they need to handle. Also, one of the things that we're going to do here is with our new Arbor Pro system, there were trees that were identified as what we call priority 1 removals. They need to be removed right away. And so this off-schedule team will be dealing with those. That will be less work than that the tree crew needs to deal with as they progress with their cycles. So that should help. Also, a big thanks to Christine Spar and her folks there in resident services. We've been working closely with them, trying to communicate where we're at so that they can help us to communicate with the community as they're receiving those calls from folks. Now, the silver lining in all this is that as we progress here into the fall, things will slow down. The plant growth is already slowing down. I would say we're in that as we speak now, and it seems like the heat has broken. The days are shorter and cooler, so that will certainly assist us to get back on track. And I know I'm hearing from my staff, they're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. In many places, we should be caught up by late September, early October. Other areas, it'll take us a little bit longer. But once we get caught back up, particularly at this time of the year, particularly with the positions being filled, we should be able to stay caught up. Go ahead. And then the last thing here that I wanted to go over is where are we going from here? And that is, I would like to work with HR and continually recruit. I think it would be good for us to develop a backlog, if you will, of applications. Even perhaps if we don't have positions that are open, it would be good to have applications on file that we can go to right away to try to cut down on some of the time to fill these vacancies. We'll continue to train and develop staff, and really the supervisors, my hat's off to our supervisors. They have done a great job with these new employees coming in here, working individually with those guys, trying to get them up to speed with the expectations that we expect that they would put into the work here. Doing a great job. We'll continue to do that and improve upon our staffing. We've done this for years and years. We will continue to do that. To do this, and that is to replace the high maintenance shrubbery, particularly during the painting process. That's a great time where we can go in and address concerns with the shrubbery and identify those plants that are giving us the most difficulty in maintaining, and we can work with the residents that live in those areas to remove and replace. Obviously, we want to replace with lower maintenance plant material and drought tolerant plant material that will work well for us going forward. We will utilize the Arbor Pro system to identify what we call cycle busters. And again, those are those trees that are very fast growing, or because of their location, their species, and their situation in the landscape out there, cause us to have to pull off of our normal maintenance and spend time to deal with them outside of the normal cycle. And so we're working with that system to identify the best way to address those so that we can progress more efficiently. And then lastly, again, to do a better job of communicating with the residents through resident services, through the Globe, through emails and the e-blast and the breeze. And actually I want to thank Lori and her staff for helping us with that.